32% of 18 to 24-year-olds are spending 5 or more hours every day online, according to a recent study from the Alan Turing Institute in March 2023. How do we feel about that? How do you feel about that? We're going to be talking about that today and understanding a bit more about recommendation engines on AI on social media, talking about online communities. Good afternoon and welcome to the Tech and AI show on AUK Radio. Very early on, I want to know how many hours a day do you spend online, perhaps, that you're aware of?
Interesting question. I believe it should be up to an hour or more.
Okay.
Cumulatively.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Maybe you want to, I think weekly there is a weekly report on one's, activities.
Yeah.
But I usually don't look into it. But by default, I know I always want to reduce my screen time.
Definitely.
It's kind of part of being in 21st century. There are realities you have to deal with. Apparently, internet, we spend some number of hours there. And like I said, these are the realities of 21st century. You online, maybe, you buy things, check messages, things like that. So it's just how to safely use all these things, to avoid yourself being harmed and then also causing harm to others. So just how to manage and use it in the best way you can. Especially I think social media, because the report that you mentioned is part of the government online white paper that they release. I think it has passed. I'm not sure the stage, but I believe the parliament has already approved it and it's now law.
Yeah. It's been around for what, at least a year, so
the
people
new
are aware.
regulation, how the media, the social media or the big tech companies should be regulated, especially social media, making sure they manage the issue of misinformation, harmful content. So this is actually part of it. I spent some time years back at the early development stage of the bill. So it's basically the bill aimed to protect citizens, users of this technology from harmful content, including misinformation. I spent quite a while of time looking into it when it was at the development stage.
Because it's a very powerful tool, and on this show I think we do a good job of talking people through the history, maybe in past technologies, how it links to today. Okay, maybe in the past people would spend a lot of time reading books or doing other activities, and they would all have a measurement of how much time they spent every day doing it. So when we move to now, we're looking at online harm, social media, things like that. It's all very well tracked. We have a lot of data. But what are the type of things people would have spent a lot of time on in the past, do you think, that would have had potential harms, do you think?
Maybe, I think, reading from books. I didn't witness it, but the early stage of industrial revolution, the time people spend in the industry factory without good air. So that has been an issue, though it has been addressed by making sure employers improve the welfare of their workers, including making sure the environment is good for your workers. So that has been addressed, but I believe at the initial stage, a lot of workers face that challenges. And two, employing underage. So before, children were employed and the government have to step in to make sure certain age group are not employed, and then another group are employed but for a certain hours because they are still not adult. So that, because children have to be protected, and I think that has also reflected in this online harm, because there have been a recommendation to limit the number of hours young people, especially children, spend. I know definitely that
they're the most
been
at risk, right? So they're the more vulnerable.
Yeah.
They're the more susceptible to any of the negative outcomes.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have people in their family or friends or circles with young kids that will be using these technology, using these devices. There's almost an extension of their body sometimes, isn't it? How much, how often, how used to it they are. So I guess at the beginning of these technologies, it was just an open season. People could. It was down to the parents or the family to moderate how much and how often people are using this technology, and that is where there's a potential for misuse, I suppose. It's in people's lack of education about the tools or the technology, especially when you get a new thing. You're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to use it as much as possible. But that doesn't tell the whole story sometimes, does it? What's been your understanding of that?
No, it's your point is quite true, and having to know that this technology, especially to be very specific, when it comes to social media, the hours you spend there, so it's their product. They want you to consume them. So that's those hours you are spending is like you patronizing it. So they want people to engage more. And what I know, and as with another incident that happened, which I will we'll discuss in the next few minutes, is the companies, from the design, they have this applications in the software. They are designed to get users addicted. So it's by design. It's not by, sometimes it's not you having to, you are spending too much hours. No, it's you are actually interacting with the application. It will be sucking you up. So it's designed to get you addicted.
Definitely. The blame isn't always with the people.
It's not always with the people. No, actually you are doing what the algorithm is designed to make you do. So I believe government realize this, and part of the regulation is there. Let me give you an example. When you are watching something, either on the social media or streaming platform, you will see recommendations keep coming, update. And if you are to follow that update, you may spend 24 hours. And another thing is the updates is not just random update things that will get you boring. Because this algorithm, there is a lot of research. There is intelligent brains behind this. So they put a lot of, resources. They are monitoring you, getting your pattern, knowing what you like and what you dislike. So they will be feeding you things that most likely will get you hooked up.
So it's like a test. It's a test. They'll throw out this example, they'll throw out that example, and just wait and see what bites, what catches you. Okay, it reminds me a little bit of what, maybe what negative people might do on the street if they're trying to get someone's attention with, with drugs or something. They'll give you a test or an example of something that you might hook you in order to find out what you like and what you don't like. That's what that kind of reminds me a little bit of.
Sometimes the way the things works is they will look at your preference based on your searches. For example, there was a time I did a research. I think I wrote article. I wrote a paper here on privacy and users' privacy online. So a lot of the times they have some hidden, algorithm. Let me say like something like cookies, that it will follow you even when you leave that application or when you leave that website. and they are getting feedback information on your pattern, your behavior. So let me give you an instance. If somebody probably like junk, so you search for, let's say, chicken and chips, so it makes sense if they offer you advert of burger.
Yes.
Because most probably you may like burger.
Yeah. Okay.
So they will look at your pattern, your behavior, your interaction online, and they will build a profile of you.
Yeah, very much.
Based on your searches. So they will be feeding you your preference.
Yeah, okay.
Another example is, for example, when you go and search for maybe technology and AI stuff.
Yeah.
So it makes sense if they start showing you like gaming adverts, things like that that are similar in that category. And for example, in this case, you search for one video about AI and technology, so they will give you a feed of like 20 or 30 within that category. So that's how some of the apps are built. They will look at your pattern, extract it, and they will keep feeding you. Because the feed were unlimited.
On the surface, you might think that's a good thing, but when you're being bombarded with so much information or so many of the same thing, the impact can turn out to be negative, because you probably become harder to filter good versus bad. It could be that you become quite consumed by it. But maybe what maybe we're talking about harms, or maybe what people can do to change these things. Maybe we need to talk about what people can do to change what's happening. You know, do people need to suddenly search Rolex, something different that they're not always used to searching, in order for the algorithm to go, hang on a minute, you were looking into Fiat 500 yesterday, now you're looking at Rolexes, what's going on? Like, do we need to talk more about how people can change the algorithm, or is it just a case of just stepping back, stepping away from it?
Well, what I know is one of the recommendations, I think, is in terms of countering, for example, extreme views. What I happen to know, I believe they did, was if you are searching for A, so if opinion B counter your narrative, they will also recommend things that are opposite to your view, so that in a way to kind of counter or give you alternative facts, not only keep reinforcing your views on that. So they did that at a point. I'm not sure they continue, they still maintain it, but that has been. But with the online harm, what they did is put a restriction.
Yeah.
So there is now a limit of on the feed. So it's all like unlimited before. But now there is a limit. If they feed you with some certain number of feed, it has to end or stop.
It has to end or stop. Okay.
So which I believe is a good thing. And one interesting thing is people need to know, like I said earlier, when you go to a shop and buy grocery or sweet or biscuit, whatever, chocolate, you are consuming it. That act of consuming is what actually the producers intend you to consume it, so they get money out of you. All these algorithms, applications, they want you to spend time on it. That's what you're actually consuming that information. So that is actually the target. And people have to be psychologically and mentally very strong to be able to, by default, fight these things, like mentally, in a way. Like if I say fighting, meaning using it within the ethical and safe zone.
Yes.
Without spending too much time, because there is number of hours by expert. I'm not a medical expert, but we have read, and it's common sense, there is number of hours that if you spend on this, interacting, is harmful.
Yeah, there'll be negative outcomes.
So it's not safe for you to spend hours, unlimited hours, interacting with computer or your phone without it harm mental. It has mental effect.
That's why it's concerning. I started with that stat of the amount of hours that that age group are spending online, and they're the youngest in our society, so they will grow up conditioned to and being normalized to spend that much time on, previously it might be video games, but if it's online communities that have that power and that presence to continue to reinforce the consuming, that is kind of what we're talking about here, I think.
Yeah, it's two things. First, the number of time, and second, the information you are consuming. Because young people, or generally people, might be exposed to some bad and harmful content. So as well, and one thing that is quite key and important is just the way you look after your food in terms of the quality, for example, organic, it's hygienic. It's exactly the same thing. People need to look after the information they consume.
Absolutely.
We are consuming information just the way you consume food. People are actually what you know, what you think.
Okay, yeah.
Because now if you say we should carry on this show, we should speak Mongolian or maybe Russian or Chinese, we might not be able to do because we just don't know it.
Yeah.
Okay. The information is not there. You can't. Yeah. Even whatever anybody will do to you, you can't because you don't have that. And now we are speaking English because we were taught English. We have that stored in our memory. So the way you act, the way you behave, the way you perceive the world, it all depends on the information that you have already input in your head. Yeah. So you are what you know. Yeah. If I say, Tamar, let's communicate in Chinese, we can't because we don't know that.
It's not there.
But for a Chinese person, it will be as easy as we are speaking English. So it's the same thing. Content, the information people consume,
it becomes
need to be watched. Just the way you watch what you eat, what you drink. And I think I actually believe the government understood that, and that's why they did what they did with the online, safety bill, which I see it as something good. I commend it. And regulation need to keep updating because the technologies are updating. With now the emergence of AI, it's easy for people to write things, create things, even with images, and so there is definitely need to keep an eye.
Every time there's a new frontier, I suppose it's another point of risk. And actually, I've got a story for you. So, similar to around when this bill I talked about, or this policy, that research was published.
Yes.
I was living in London with my housemate, and I've got a story where, obviously, we're both using social media quite often. Okay. And at the time, I believe YouTube Shorts was quite new. It's quite just kind of been released. So they're still testing their algorithm, testing their format. Yeah. And I remember happening upon my housemate, and he had been on a trail of videos that were linked to, it was a comedy. It was comedy. It was about, it was pranks, practical jokes, and it was Eastern Europeans playing practical jokes on each other. And for some reason or other, he just could not get off of this thread. So within whatever time period, he'd now been consuming this content of practical jokes from Eastern European people, and that could be fine in any environment, but maybe if you're consuming it constantly, it could change how you view practical jokes. Who knows? So it took me to have to actually approach him and say, hey, do you mind if I help you with that? And I pressed on the button and said, I'm not interested in this anymore. And it was off of his feed now. And he said, thank you. He said, thank you. I don't know how I got onto this, but I couldn't get off of it. So I get exactly what you mean when you say what you consume, it comes into you, it can become a part of you. So people need to recognize that you might need a form of intervention or support.
Yeah, and that is quite true because sometimes people need support. And I think it's important when we live with people, especially loved ones, you need to watch how much time they spend on screen, especially young people, because some people need that support. I like what you did. Politely monitor people around you many times I've seen people, and they are quite adult, like way older, some older than myself.
Yeah.
I will look at them and say, "Do you know you are addicted to something?
Oh,
This
wow.
thing?"
That's very direct.
No, I told someone very close to me. I called the app name,
Yeah.
and I told them, I said, "You are addicted to this application." I will every time. Sometimes even social interaction is difficult. You are talking, they will like, "Oh yeah, you." They get hooked up, and
Yeah.
you can see like that guy say, it's like that's just the word addiction. It's addiction.
Yeah.
So until you like kind of intervene, they will like, "Oh,
So what did he say when you said you're addicted to this app? What was the
not one
response?
or two." Yeah, no, they agree
Oh.
because I proved to them. Well, it's my field. I'm kind of an expert in this thing, so I know what I'm saying. Even when I was doing my masters, I wrote a paper, like I was saying, one about privacy, but it also overlap when it comes to addiction and how people interact with the application. And two, I did a bit of research, and I was really interested with regard to the Cambridge Analytica scandal during the Trump campaign. You know how they build people profile using algorithms according to people interaction. So I actually know how these things interact with users and the idea behind it. And you can see someone, you know, finding it difficult to have physical social interaction.
Yeah.
People are talking to you at the same time, touching their phone, doing on screen, going online, continuous checking the feeds. So you can see dividing their attention. I was like, "Do you know you're addicted to this?" And I will kind of explain to them, tell them you need to use this as any other technology safely. So there are boundaries you need to stay within. Don't overdo it. You need to know how to limit your screen time. Yeah, you have to interact.
It's becoming more and more important. And I said we would talk about past technologies through to now.
Yeah.
Previously, let's say, for instance, in a family home, you had the radio or the TV. The level of interaction you had with this technology was kind of shared. Okay, so if somebody spent all day listening to the radio, it was still quite open source. Maybe people can join you, your family can join you, your friends can join you, and actually the level of engagement is, I would say, a bit more conscious. So if you're listening to the radio and that radio is a talk show, they're asking you to phone in. They're asking you to enter the competition. They're asking you to share your thoughts. Like it's a bit more human. Yeah, that's my understanding of it. So how can people? Because I don't think online is going away. I don't think that it is going to. It may not reduce, but when we're talking about tools and how to make, minimize harm, how can people engage with the technology and engage with the people around them in a better way?
Yeah,
maybe.
it's interesting. And the point you make, or the example you just make now, it makes sense. But that's where this technology come with like its unique future and the advantage they have over the previous technologies. For example, radio. Well, radio have a schedule. Well, let's say they have a daily schedule. Political program, technology, news and current affairs, maybe music. So you hardly find someone interested in everything. Maybe if you are interested in politics, you may not be deeply engaged in technology. So at some point, you will have to find it maybe not really interesting, and you move on. But with this technology, like I told you earlier, they monitor your behavior, your interaction. So they will keep feeding you exactly what you want because they are personalized. So they look at your behavior, your pattern, and keep interacting with you based on that. So most of the suggestion they feed, your activities are things you actually like, your preference. So that's what makes it interesting, but kind of where people need to be careful.
Yes.
So you hardly find a boring time. You say like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
They will keep feeding you things
Yeah.
interesting, similar. Like,
wow, that's I never thought of it like that actually. You know,
yeah.
I mean it's self-explanatory, but I never thought of it like that. Like the schedule, well, you'll go, okay, that's not for me. I'll use that time to now cook
Do other
or
things, yeah.
to clean or to spend time with my family. But now
You
it's just like,
hardly find any boring or dull time because it's profiles are built based on personality. So they look at you, it's you. Just
okay,
like, for example, if you go to any social media, you create account, so it's your virtual self.
mm,
So all the activities you are doing, they are building a profile based on you. It's so it reflects what you are fed
yeah,
whenever you interact in that virtual world. So all what you see is
yeah.
based on your
There's racial profiling,
profile.
there's age profiling. So
Yeah.
me, black man, is gonna have a profile of me and try to understand what things I might be interested in or try to feed me certain things.
Yeah. And
So
like I
yeah,
said,
yeah,
even the advert you we've been seeing sitting here watching something or doing something. I will be seeing different advert than you because
mm,
in fact I used to tell some of my friends, so like, if you give me your phone, by just going through your advert, I can tell you what you are, your activities online. And I mean it. I'm not making it. There are certain things I will look at from the advert that they feed you. I can easily predict you would interact with certain things. But I don't know.
okay,
But that's how it
okay,
works. And
okay.
like
Mm,
I said, the good thing or the interesting, let me use the word. The interesting thing is like this, making it more of you, like a digital profile of you.
mm,
But it's also the scary thing because you won't find it dull. It's part of the reason it makes people addictive because it's actually your interest.
yeah, okay.
It's targeted at you specifically.
Wow. Okay. I'm generally a little bit paused. I need to just think myself because it's quite deep actually. So yeah, okay. You know, we're on AUK radio. You're watching it on YouTube. You're probably thinking, well, then what's the answer? Where do we go from here? So maybe over to you. Maybe over to the people. Like what solutions are there out there to change the narrative, change the flow? We have government legislation, but we need communities, leaders, people in positions that are you know either expert or speaking to experts on what the next steps are. So yeah, I'm getting ideas from this conversation alone. Like we need like workshops or stations set up. Hey, bring me your phone. I'll sort out something that just kind of kicks people into gear. Because
And the
sorry to go
approach,
on. Like we
yeah.
talk about the country or the economy being like slow or low productivity, low growth. Yeah, because people are just online or their time is being absorbed by certain content. So we've got the solution.
Yeah, yeah.
Got
And it's interesting. I think from my own end to kind of wrap up, there is a word called moderation.
oh, say it again.
So, moderation.
Yeah.
So, anything you do, try to be moderate. Don't go extreme. Or, like, yeah, safe. There is always a safe zone, a boundary that you are not supposed to cross.
Okay.
So, if everything we do in moderation is always better, and moderation sometimes using common sense, you know
Mhm.
what is, the moderate time to spend in, let's say, even joke. There is moderate joke. You can go to extreme where you offend people you are joking with. This is kind of even a silly thing like joke. So
True.
everything there should be moderation. The same way we interact with these technologies, let's do it in a moderate and responsible way.
Yes.
Uh, and also we should look at people around us and ensure they are using it in a moderate, responsible, safe, and ethical way.
Mm.
I think that will help. We need the regulation, we need, but above all, we are human beings. These things are just technologies and application. And we need to show them we are human because soon we will start interacting with humanoid. And what makes you human is sense.
Yeah, you're right.
So we should prioritize that. We will solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Use it safely, moderately, ethically within the boundary. Don't overdo it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. Play safe.
Excellent. I'm not gonna add on top of that. I think you said it well. Yeah. For sure. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the conversation. Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you.
As always.
Yeah.
As always. It's very,
nice.
very good. So tune in to the next episode. Remember to like it and share this to somebody who's gonna watch it in a good moderate amount.
Exactly.
Not too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, just give
I
us your
believe
thoughts.
the time we spend is also moderate. It's not
There you
too
go. Not too much, not too little.
it's within the boundary.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
See you later.